All right, so welcome everyone. I'm here with Donnie Kim, who is the founder of BTC Protocol. Thank you for joining my YouTube channel. If you don't know me, I'm Green Pill on Twitter at Take Green Pill. So let's just get started. So Donnie, can you please tell me about your background and how you got into creating this protocol?
Yeah, so like I was saying before, I think a lot of people are interested in how we're using this own fork. And so we sort of evolved from ETFs. We started in 2017, and ETFs, if you look very carefully at the structure of those products, they're also creation and redemption products with something like a basket of assets that are backing them. That's the same thing with BTC Proxy. It is a creation and a redemption system with BTC that's backing it. It's a little different than the way that the other competitors work, but it's very similar in that concept. And as we develop that, building trying to acquire liquidity is what sort of brought us to this own sort of concept. And so we have another sister company called Cryptoin Investment Advisors out of the US, and Jason and I are the members in that. And we have a Bitcoin and an Ethereum ETF under review by the SEC. We'll see what the decision is on that coming in December. To tell you the truth, it doesn't look that great, but that's a different product, and it has a life of its own. But back to Proxy, yeah, we've been developing this, and we've been watching the market develop since 2017.
Awesome. Thanks for going over that. So definitely sounds like a good amount of finance experience. So for anyone wondering about the background, that's pretty much what it is. So next question is, can you please tell us exactly what Bitcoin Proxy is and what are the major problems that it solves?
So this is what we're seeing in the market. When institutions or large investors, they invest, they'll first come into the market, and put their money into Bitcoin. That's usually the port of entry for most of these institutions. And what happens is that Bitcoin, a lot of the times, most of it goes into these cold storage, or just into storage in general. It's just being held and taken off the market, and that's what we try to solve, is to access that value that's held in storage without putting that BTC at risk or having them to have to exchange it or sell it.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if you see this, but there's a Fireflies thing that you can sort of kick if you want to, that came into the room.
Okay, got it. I'll remove it right now.
Yeah. And so as we're talking, and so who are these institutions? They're like miners. They're custodians. They're exchanges. They're lenders. Will people, if they have a choice will they borrow Bitcoin or would they borrow Ethereum? They'll probably borrow something else that they can utilize it to interact with, like other DeFi protocols. So Bitcoin just usually sits there, and so the purpose of it is to access that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I agree that's a really important use case that I think can take DeFi to the next level. So can you tell me, does the Bitcoin Proxy protocol, does it officially live on the MATIC blockchain?
Yeah, it's built on MATIC. I've told this story before, that we started back in 2017. We were early back then, and we hired a developer. His name was Sandeep. You guys probably heard the story. And he did a lot of development for us, and then he left, and he's the one who went to found MATIC. Incredible foresight at the time to understand that there was going to be a lot of congestion on Ethereum, and yeah, that's why our product is built on MATIC.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting and exciting for a lot of people to hear with your connection with the MATIC blockchain on that. So that's good that you noted that. So basically, let's go through the process of someone who wants to, let's say, use the liquidity of their Bitcoin into DeFi, like on Ethereum or MATIC. So can you run me through the entire process, including defining what BTC PX token is?
Yeah, so BTC PX is a Bitcoin proxy. It's a representation of that Bitcoin that is in storage or that's in custody, and it's a relatively straightforward 2 or 3 step process. You just connect your wallet. It generates a deposit address at the custodian. You're sending the Bitcoin directly to the custodian. The proxy relay detects that deposit and then mints you the proxy onto MATIC or Ethereum. And in reverse, it's you just basically bring your BTC PX, connect your wallet, you burn it, and then it sends the instructions to the custodial wallet to send it back to the back to your Bitcoin wallet. Obviously, you've entered that into the interface.
Gotcha. And can you tell me about, like maybe time-wise, how long this entire process might take?
For it, it's sort of the bottleneck on this for Ethereum, if you're trying to mint it onto Ethereum, is the rollup. Once MATIC is pretty quick, and then it's the confirmation of that information onto the Ethereum blockchain that takes a while. And sometimes it'll take a little while for the custodial wallet to get the information or the instructions to do what it's supposed to do. It could take from between 5 minutes to about 30 minutes.
Great, yeah, and I think that's good news for some people who recently have been telling me that, sometimes bridging, I know this is not a typical bridge, but sometimes bridging processes take hours for some people. So it's good to know that this is the MATIC option is there, and it typically takes that short amount of time. So can you break down the total fees it takes to do both the forward and reverse redemption processes, like including like gas fees and stuff?
Yeah, so one of our differentiators is that to mint BTC PX using your Bitcoin, it's gasless. There's no Ethereum or MATIC that's needed in your MetaMask wallet to go forward with this process. What the protocol does is just deduct a small bridge fee if you are taking the token onto Ethereum, because that takes the step one step further. But the fee to mint it is 0.1%, and the fee to redeem it is 0.3%, and the custodian, when they send the Bitcoin back to your wallet, there might be a small deduction there because they're the ones that charge that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So thanks for clearing that up. And can you tell us more about the insured custodian, the third-party insured custodian, and why it would be extra safe for us to stake our Bitcoin with them? Yeah.
So for the target market that we're targeting, they need to have reassurances and safety measures, and it should be like a regulated entity, and that's what these custodians are. And so when Bitcoin goes into these wallets these wallets are multi-sig, and they're insured, and so it's insured against like crime, employee dishonesty or theft. There's rules that are based around these wallets, so it determines how much you can withdraw at one time. So it's really safe. So when you see a lot of these DeFi hacks, if you've been keeping track of them, most of them occur on these cross-chain bridges. And because these bridges are not, fully secure, like multi-sig, it's an older technology, but it's still one of the safest, especially for Bitcoin. So, one of the things that we say to, potential clients is, whatever happens to the project, the Bitcoin inside the wallet is always going to be safe, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really important detail to know. And yeah, that actually is a good segue to my next question. But before that, I was just thinking, so, I'm sure there's like other Bitcoin wrappers out there that we're going to talk about. These other Bitcoin converting processes and these other protocols, do they usually not use a third-party custodian like you do? And do you think that's the advantage of Bitcoin Proxy?
Yeah. So there's two main competitors out there. They've done a tremendous job of bringing Bitcoin onto DeFi. I think that WBTC, they've brought on about 13 billion, and Ren BTC has brought about 1 billion, but they act really differently. So if you look at the WBTC, that actually acts much like an institutional ETF. The creation and redemption process is only done by institutions, like they're what they call our merchants. So they actually do the creation with the custodian and the protocol. They mint a bunch of WBTC and put it onto the wherever it is, and then everybody trades it on the secondary market. That BTC is in custody, but the difference is if you're holding WBTC as a secondary market trader, it doesn't give you rights to redeem that BTC that's inside that custody, right? You trust that it's there, it's backing it, but if you ever want your BTC back, you're gonna have to go to an exchange and trade it. So it doesn't give you that the holder of the rights. Now for Ren BTC, they custody that Bitcoin in a different method, and that method is, I think that they are holding it themselves. I don't know the exact method, but because they are holding it in a non-third-party custodian, method, it kind of excludes a lot of the big players from utilizing it, and that's why you see so much more usage out of WBTC.
Very good distinction. Yeah, very good. And I will bring this up. There was a new I was just wondering if you knew about this one. There was a new DAO called Badger DAO. Someone just literally brought it up to me. Are you familiar with them at all?
Yeah, they are not so much of a bridge to, well, they are a bridge to bring BTC over, but they're not a full one-to-one wrapper. It's more of a rebase, and they have a whole ecosystem surrounding yielding Bitcoin, yielding on that Bitcoin. So they've done a good job also, and so they're trying to solve the same market problem.
Awesome, great. And can you tell us about the governance token proxy, PRXY, and exactly what it will govern, as well as the reasoning behind the max supply being 21 million?
Yeah. So proxy is the one that's, we're sort of paying attention to at the moment in the market. It has a supply of 21 million because our project is one that sort of mimics BTC, and having a small supply, we find actually helps us control the tokenomics better, if you want to say that. Smaller supply, you'll see more fluctuations in the price, and it also makes each token a lot more valuable. So that's why you're seeing so much volatility in the token now. And Proxy is the token that's going to be that sort of is the one that the value transfer from the total locked in value from BTC PX is transferred to. So the more BTC PX is that's utilized, the governance token obviously from that ratio increases in value.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be glad to hear that. And can you tell us why you chose to utilize the Olympus DAO fork smart contract to have BTC Protocol own its own liquidity? Maybe the answer is kind of in the question there, but maybe you can expand on that.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, we were introduced to Ohm's protocol through Rich at Launchpools. We're a project that came out of Alphabet Launchpool ecosystem. And we are talking to these institutions, and if they're going to bring Bitcoin onto our protocol, to utilize that Bitcoin, we have to pair it with something, right? To put it into a pool to provide liquidity, you're going to need like USDC, you're going to need ETH, and what are we going to do to pair that? And so the initial reason why that was introduced was because of the concept of bonds and how they were raising the liquidity with that technique or that mechanism. And then we found out, holy smokes, they're doing 8,000 APY. How are they doing this? And so we started taking a closer look at it, and it's interesting. Like, we dove really deep into the code and figured out a few things, but everything is tied together. But the main reason was to provide a mechanism to pair the BTC for the liquidity.
Awesome. And hinging on that, can you tell us more details about the high APY staking of Proxy that's about to go live this Friday for anyone who might not be aware?
Yeah, so that is obviously like a modified Ohm contract, and inside this contract, we figured out that it was 2,500% APY because of the way that the rewards are structured. There's 0.298% rewards that are given every epoch to the pool. And that happens 3 times a day. And so if you put that into a compound calculator, considering that the price of the token remains the same, that equals 2,500%. And that seems like the baseline. And then I think the mechanism is that if the price or the token price rises from that baseline point, it's calculated as additional APY.
Awesome. And so any, as you know, it could be linked to the staking as well. Any other news or updates about Bitcoin Proxy that you want to tell us about? Maybe it's related to staking, maybe it's something else you got plans for.
Yeah, so this is a little differentiator between us and probably other Ohm forks, and it's the fact that we have BTC PX on the one side. So for DeFi projects, usually the valuation of that governance token is has a direct correlation to how much value is locked. Now, most of these other Ohm contracts or Ohm forks, they only have the staking that they can base that TVL off of. But for our project, if Bitcoin is coming through BTC PX, you have another entire side that's also being locked, and both of those combined add to the TVL. So we don't know what the ratio is. It differs when you look at DeFi Llama, what the MCAP TVL ratio is, but we just know that there is a correlation between how much is locked and how much the value of that governance token should be. So that's where we think that we have another side of it.
Awesome. So basically, you see, like, as the Bitcoin liquidity starts to increase and BTC Proxy more of that gets minted, you see the proxy governance token increasing in value accordingly.
Exactly. Not only from the staking, but from whatever is being run through BTC PX.
Awesome. And do you also see the APY increasing accordingly along that pattern as well?
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
I'm assuming so. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. And can you tell us, why would BTC Proxy be appealing to the masses and the average casual retail investor who probably just holds Bitcoin and does not know too much about DeFi?
Yeah, so Bitcoin is sitting in your wallet or sitting in your storage. Maybe you have, you're an average investor, and maybe you don't want to sell it. So accessing the value without having to sell it could be a good point for these, these average investors. If you do want to sell it, you have other options. But if you want to keep it, or if for some reason you don't want to move it, then this is an option.
Great. I 100% agree. And just curious, will there be separate educational initiatives going forward to cover this learning gap between maybe more casual retail investors, to encourage them to use BTC Proxy and to learn more about DeFi? Or would that be pretty much responsibility on the community as well, because this is a decentralized effort? So should influencers and the community in general step up and try to educate Bitcoin holders on this?
Well, that's why we're doing these interviews with the Green Pill. With influencers like you. You guys have much more reach than what we have, but definitely we do want to spread more educational information about the protocol through both channels. We'll do some, we'll partner and do some other things too.
Excellent. And so the next couple of questions, well, not couple, there's a good bunch. So they're from the community that I gathered from Twitter and a couple from Telegram, but I believe a lot of the people on the Telegram group came over to my Twitter and submitted their questions. So the first question is, do you have any plans to add more liquidity on Uniswap and Quickswap to reduce price volatility? And will there be another central exchange listing other than AscendX in the coming months, possibly in Q1?
Yes, we know that that's an issue, is the liquidity, and we are trying to build out the liquidity throughout the entire market. It's still relatively new, the pools for sure. We are in talks right now and under review with two other exchanges, which one is Gate and the other is Liquid Exchange. So we're undergoing the review process there. But the centralized exchanges are important, but if you look at most of these other protocols, we think that the DEX exchanges are probably even more important. And so building out additional pools is how we actually want to go out.
Nice. And so this person called Bitcoin Proxy DAO. So he's saying, is Proxy DAO trying to encourage liquidity of Bitcoin PX throughout DeFi, or is the intention of the protocol to hold quote unquote all the BTC PX, thus making the sole use for it to just convert to a different asset if people want to use it in DeFi? Or if the goal is to hold about, let's say, half of all the BTC PX, then will there be plenty of BTC PX to flow around organically throughout the DeFi space?
Yeah, we have our intention is not to hold BTC PX. We wanted to free flow throughout the ecosystem and make it a bridge for them to come onto DeFi and to exchange it for whatever tokens that they want to utilize it for. Yeah, we don't have any plans to hold anything, but we will probably co-manage with institutions that are on board, what we're going to do with that liquidity.
Great, excellent. And next question is, what has Bitcoin Proxy done to market their services to attract customers to bring in additional liquidity?
Well, in the very beginning, we worked with a lot of agencies, and we have 20 different influencers that we are that came in on the private round with us. So they have a vested interest in it. Getting the word out there, obviously, the word seems to be out now, and we didn't do much marketing. We find that the best sort of marketing is actually performance in the tokenomics. And so we're hoping that it gets out through influencers like yourself, and that way, yeah.
Awesome. And what pricing oracle is Bitcoin Proxy using for liquidity services, and how does that impact the pricing of, I believe he's talking about the proxy governance token?
I'll have to ask my dev on that, on which oracle that we're using. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. So I know that we do gather the price of proxy directly from like Uniswap, because they have sort of pricing that comes from there. So we'll obviously try to take the best price, and everyone who knows the market knows that the pricing differs between CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. They all have their different algorithms, but yeah.
Gotcha. And will it be possible to wrap staked proxy or S proxy?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I was actually thinking about what we're going to do with that. So when you stake into the smart contract, the staking contract, you're given a yield token, which is S proxy. That's a rebase. That token, what we were thinking of was using that as collateral, so that the user can actually yield further on that. And if you see these other own forks, they have been partnering up with other protocols to utilize that as collateral. What we were thinking of actually doing was utilizing S proxy as collateral to borrow BTC PX. So you can borrow Bitcoin using that collateral. So we'd have to sort of figure that more down the road. And that's a little further, but that's what we're thinking. Or obviously partnering up with other protocols that might be able to also take it as collateral.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting. And I think the other systems you're talking about is obviously Olympus DAO, Time Wonderland, and also including the Abracadabra, the entire system where they're borrowing against their wrapped time or wrapped memo. And yeah, so I think just throwing that out there, I think they call that system like part of the Frog Nation. So Danielle is the leader of that. So that'll be really interesting too, I feel, if some projects can do kind of what they're doing or even partner with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so will each proxy token be backed by BTC PX 1-to-1? So yeah, that's the question. I mean, I guess it's pretty much self-explanatory, but yeah.
Actually, no, proxy is not backed by BTC PX 1-to-1. Proxy is the governance token for BTC PX, which is backed by Bitcoin. right? So
Gotcha.
the value, yeah. So Proxy is the governance token of the wrapper.
Okay, gotcha. And can you tell us what percentage of fees from minting and redeeming will be distributed to proxy stakers? I believe you did answer this. It was the 0.1%, right?
Yeah. So the 0.1 and the 0.3%, those are fees. Half of it goes to paying like the custodial fees. The other half, which is we have done it before, was to offer it up in one of our programs to be farmed. So you can also stake Proxy to earn, Bitcoin directly if you want to.
Great. And this one was, I think that was a pretty popular question. Can you tell us who are the 3 to 4 institutions who are planning to provide Bitcoin liquidity for the project? I'm sure you might have heard this question a couple of times.
Yeah, so people really want to know this question. So let me just I will mention names because a lot of people who have been asking, and so these are the 3 or 4 institutions that we've been talking to. We've been obviously talking to Hex, which is our custodian. They have like a lending and borrowing protocol, and it's easy to, not easy, it's very legalistic to get liquidity from these custodians. They have access to lots of it. We're in talks with OKEX, OKEX. We're in talks with Huobi. And the most important one that we're in talks with, and the furthest that we are down the line with, and we're actually talking about an integration, is with blockchain.com, which is one of the largest. And they have so much of it that they are looking for different ways to generate yield. And our protocol speaks exactly to what their needs are, is to safely, access it.
Big names, yeah, those are big names. I'm sure people will be happy to hear that.
But yeah. Let me just elaborate on this further. And yeah, I've put out these names, but you have to realize that, like, in relation to these big names, our project is still relatively small, and within the ecosystem, we're at the privy of negotiations with a centralized entity, and so that always takes time. We're obviously pushing ahead with it, and we're making progress, but these entities like to do their due diligence and move at their own pace. So that's we're doing our best to make as many inroads as possible, putting them through the pipeline, but it's ultimately like when the deal gets done.
Gotcha. And can you give an overview of all the sources of liquidity for this protocol? In parentheses, would it include liquidity providing, institutional investors, and hopefully bonding from the treasury?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah. So this person asks, can you give an overview of all the sources of liquidity for this entire protocol, like the different sources?
So we're counting on these institutions to come in. There are obviously other entities that we're in talks with, but they're just sort of like waiting in the wings to see what they can do with it, right? So our ecosystem has not grown enough for them to put it into the system. What are they going to do with it? Just so the staking mechanism that's going to go out, that now gives us a real reason to, or gives them a real reason to want to come in to earn the yield, because now it's very attractive.
Gotcha. And also it would be the staking, and people can also still provide liquidity themselves now, right? With like BTC PX and USDC.
Yeah, so those existing pools that you see, they're going to be retired because it's kind of a duplicate sort of process. If you are going to provide liquidity rewards for one pool So we're going to be removing the rewards from those legacy ones, and then moving all the rewards into staking, and then purchasing the liquidity through the bonds.
Perfect. And can you tell us what the different assets will be that will be included in the treasury of Bitcoin Proxy, present and possibly in the future?
Yeah, so the most important ones. So if you look at the ecosystem, you're going to need ETH. You're going to need like a US dollar stable coin. We're going to need, in order to attract users from the WBTC network, we're going to need to attract WBTC. So those are the main ones. And so those are the main pairs, and probably the ones that we're going to start with.
Gotcha. And can you tell us what will be implemented to provide liquidity in the Quickswap liquidity pools? I believe this might have been answered, but this person was indicating how he was saying there was not as much liquidity, at least on Quickswap at the moment.
Yeah, we really didn't expect that pool to sort of explode in the usage that it did in the past month. We literally only set it up to get the pricing on Polygon, and then we started getting like massive usage out of that. And all of our gainers or holders for this run up in the past month, they've almost exclusively been on the Polygon side, which is a great sign. And that's why it's going to be important to provide additional liquidity for that pool. We'll establish other pairs on Quickswap, and being on Polygon, being on MATIC is what our intentions are, and that's why the staking is going to be on that chain also.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, so that's good. You already answered that. So that's good news. And how will the team take advantage of the massive Bitcoin liquidity they will have to help increase the market cap of Proxy token to the fullest extent? I believe you touched on that before too.
Yeah, so we'll take in the Bitcoin as it comes, and then we'll try to, we want the community to participate and help us raise the liquidity for the pair. And we can go out and create these different pools so that it can be used. And so the one side of the Bitcoin coming in will be from the institution. The other pair will raise it through the bonds, have the community participate, and then we can create the pool together. And that's what we might take the votes on which pools and where they should be created.
And of course, that's where the proxy governance token comes in, right? Where they vote on these different things.
Yeah, and so we'll likely utilize stake proxy as like the voting token.
That was literally just the next question I had, but yeah, good. Any general risks that people need to be aware with when staking their proxy?
Well, it's on MATIC, and the gas fees are cheap. That's really good. I don't know how like other projects still do all their testing and everything on the main chain. It's just so prohibitive now. The gas fees are, and the congestion is so high. There's even congestion now on MATIC chain. So just be wary of like the cost. Make sure that you are actually on the right site and trading with the right token. That's important. So it's always verify the contract address. But and it's just the basic due diligence before you stick your tokens or connect your wallet.
Gotcha, 100%. And actually, I was thinking, are there any possible considerations for other blockchains besides ETH and MATIC for this protocol to operate on in the future?
Yeah, good question. In our roadmap, our original roadmap, the next chain that we obviously want to get to is Binance. So there's a lot of other chains that are popping up, but we're not at the forefront of trying to develop new markets. We'll just go to the markets that are already developed.
Good, nice. And will staking returns be potentially stable long term? How long would these returns be possible?
Well, you just have to look at how Olympus is performing, and I guess you can gauge how that operates and sort of use us as an analogy. Looks like Ohm is consistently been returning 8,000 APY over a certain amount of time. Our contracts are not that much different, so it should perform similar.
Great. And this person asks, how would this high APY be possible with a fixed and relatively low total supply of 21 million proxy tokens?
Okay, so we did the math on this, and because our token supply is capped, Ohms is not. They can perpetually go on and inflate forever. But they've gotten to about 3 billion market cap using only 3 to 4 million tokens. So our supply currently out there is small. And as it inflates, you're going to get to the hard market supply of 21 million. And at that time, we perceive that to take over 2 years, even further, at the rate that it's growing, and sort of extrapolating how Ohms is growing at. It'll take some time to get there. But then the DAO has a decision to make at the end of the 21 million. What happens, right? So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Obviously, the rewards will be tapered down as we get to the end. Possibly, the community can take a vote at that time and decide what can happen.
Great. And this might tie into what you just spoke about right now. This person wants to know, will the staking APY increase over time, over 2,500%? And can you describe which mechanisms will make the APY increase or decrease? So
yeah, I talked about this earlier. The calculation from the compound interest is the base is 2,500% based on the number of epochs that are rewarded. And then we're assuming that it's because of the appreciation in the token value that also increases that APY, that pushes it over. Because I think that, if I'm not mistaken, Ohm started at $1.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was they backed it with one DAI and it started at $1. I think it's like close to, I saw it at a high of like 1,200. So all that is premium. So that's your APY, is also the appreciation in the token price.
Agreed. And where do you see the proxy token in terms of adoption in, let's say, within 5 years from now?
Oh, 5 years. That's a lifetime in crypto. It moves so quick. Hopefully by that time it will be a mature product. Actually the long-term goal on this side, which is BTC PX, because the financial markets move a lot slower, there's going to be a lot of Bitcoin funds, ETFs, and all that Bitcoin, not physical, but actual Bitcoin is going to be like hoarded at these major institutions. At that time, we hope that, because there's not a lot of competition for us, to plug that into these institutions and have our bridge act as the conduit between that storage and DeFi. And business development wise, that's the way that we want to go out for the next, obviously, medium term, is to connect it with as many institutions as possible for them to be using that DeFi bridge.
Gotcha. And that brought up another question. Do you think the majority of people using this protocol will be more institutional investors or retail investors in the coming years?
We hope it's both, right? It's open to both. It's friendly enough and decentralized enough for the regular user to use it, but safe enough for the institutions to use it also.
Gotcha. All right. And okay, so this is an interesting one. Any chance for 4.4 to be implemented? And I'll go into what that is. And this is being done with other DAOs like Hector DAO. So basically what they're saying is 3.3 is normally not 3.3. Normally when you buy a bond, you claim and stake it anytime you want, once a part of the bond is vested. 4.4 auto stakes your bond before you can even claim it. This way you are earning interest from bonding and staking combined. This person wants, and because Hector DAO has gotten some popularity, so any plans to possibly do something like this in the future?
I mean, it's a possibility. Now you're splitting hairs and like you're competing with other similar forks to, attract the bonders. And you're trying to attract them with, having them earn interest right from the start. It's a possibility. We'll look into that. We're hoping that we can find some innovative solutions to also provide more value. But yeah, it's a possibility that we'll look at, and that's interesting that Hector DAO did that. It's innovative.
Yeah, it's
good for the user.
So interesting. Yeah. And this person wants to know, if necessary, can the user interface of the protocol be adjusted to make it friendly to all users, especially those new to DeFi and crypto in general?
Can we make it more friendly?
I don't know. I think that's what this person wants to know.
I guess we can spice up the UI to make it as simple as possible. Do you need like these little pop-ups to direct you and guide you like step by step? Is that what you need? It's pretty straightforward. Obviously, the challenge in any user interface is to make it as easy as possible. And that's always needing to be improved for sure.
Agreed.
Crypto, yeah. So this person is probably coming from, institutional or like really consumer focused products, and then come into DeFi where there's not a lot of instruction. You have to pop onto the page and kind of figure it out. So yeah, we can understand that.
Yeah. I understand it too. And, maybe the person is used to like PancakeSwap, or, a lot of that just comes to mind. Like PancakeSwap is like a really friendly cartoony user interface, but just poking a little fun there. So I heard a group of early investors, he's talking about the venture capitalists, I believe, have some proxy stuck in the pool or locked up until this new staking starts. Is it true that this batch of proxy will be accessible for trading soon by the people that currently own it, meaning the venture capitalists? So I think he's just saying it looks like some venture capitalists have a good amount of proxy. Do you know when it might be unstaked for them to possibly trade it?
Yeah, so for our token generation event, we had a vesting schedule that was laid out for all these VCs and all the partners. They've been really excellent about the fact that we did sort of delay the release of the second batch until we had a mechanism or something that would be able to absorb that new supply. And so the introduction of the staking is what we're hoping will be able to absorb that. And so they'll be more interested in staking it instead of selling it. And so this is what we've sort of been waiting for, is to have something that would absorb that. And so this person is probably worried about like the VCs that are coming online. It's 20% of the vesting amount, and yeah, so he's worried about it being dumped on. So we think that now there's a mechanism for it to be absorbed.
Gotcha. And when you say 20%, do you mean 20% of the circulating supply, or the total supply that's out there?
Yeah, 20% of the private sale.
Oh, the private sale. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Okay. And I think you pretty much tied this into the next question. I'll let you elaborate if you want to. Will there be an option for early investors, the venture capitalists, to utilize staking? Can they possibly stake their locked up tokens?
We haven't discussed what they're going to do with their locked up tokens, but once we do a distribution, those tokens are unlocked and they can do whatever they want with them. So they could, hopefully we can convince them to stake it instead of selling it, and, you know, take some sell pressure off the market. And so that's what we're hoping for.
That would be good. And next question is, can you tell us about any audits that may have happened in the past or are planned to happen for this protocol?
Yeah, we've audited all our contracts through QuillHash, everything. They're the ones that are the ones that look through all our code and see for any vulnerabilities. And yeah, so everything's been audited.
Great. And down to the last couple of questions here. So these two are for me. How do you see the future of DeFi and Bitcoin Proxy going? And how do you see Bitcoin Proxy protocol fitting into the grand, ever-changing landscape of DeFi?
Yeah, so it's changing so quickly, DeFi, and it's growing at a tremendous rate. And you can see how many more participants are coming in and how much more liquidity is being brought in. We just want to establish our little niche, and I've already talked about it. And that's all that we can do, is sort of make sure that we're inside that conversation when it comes to you know, unlocking BTC, which I think is going to get even worse in the future. More BTC comes online, these funds are going to be coming online. That BTC is just going to go into storage, and we believe that we have an excellent use case and, you know, solution to try to unlock that.
100%. And any last words you want to leave for any supporters, stakers, investors, etc.?
Yeah, so I know that everyone is sort of those. I just want to thank those investors, early investors that were with us during the downslide of that graph, and we went from 2 to way up to like 55, down back to 2, and those people that stuck with us, I want to just thank them for being there and holding on. You never know what's going to happen, and obviously it turned around for the better. Hopefully you guys took some profits. You know, I don't have any control of the pricing, so people have to understand that. I can only direct which way the project is going to go. This new news about the own fork obviously has been very positive, and I just want to thank those that were with us from the very beginning, and, you know, the ones that are coming on now. It's going to be a very exciting time.
Yeah, great. And I actually, very well said, and I wasn't there for that downtime. That's why you see why I'm so happy now. But I mean, either way, either way, I mean, I think any time to get into this project is definitely a good time, as long as you believe in the mission of the project and what you guys are trying to do. So that's why I wanted to have this interview with you. Yeah. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me. This has been great. If you want to follow Bitcoin Proxy on Twitter, they're at BTC_proxy. Again, my Twitter is at TakeGreenPill. Do you have a Twitter, Donnie, or any social media?
I don't have a personal one. I just utilize the corporate one. Yep.
Perfect. And I'm sure you're very busy as well. So I mean, can leave the social media to, I guess, people like me. So, but thanks so much for your time. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.